It was almost midnight in the vast marble mansion, the kind where silence echoes against crystal chandeliers and the air feels heavy with wealth. The house was asleep, or so everyone thought. But inside the dimly lit kitchen, crouched behind the counter, was a young woman trembling with hunger. Her name was Anna. She held a half-eaten sandwich, something the master's children had left behind, and before she could take her first bite, the motion sensor lights flickered on. Standing in the doorway was Ethan Cole, the millionaire owner of the house. His sharp eyes froze her mid-bite, the sandwich slipping from her shaking hands. The look of terror on her face, and the guilt in her eyes, told a story he wasn't ready to hear. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion to change lives, then pause for a moment, hit the like button, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and share this story so more hearts can be touched. Let's spread empathy, one story at a time. Anna had been working for the Coles for 6 months. She came every day before dawn, washed dishes, cleaned the marble floors until they shone, and quietly served breakfast to a family that barely noticed her. She was invisible, a ghost moving through luxury. But behind her silence was a storm of pain. Her husband had died 2 years ago in a construction accident, leaving her with 2 small children and a pile of debts she couldn't pay. Every coin she earned went to her kids' school fees and her mother's medicine. She often skipped meals herself, convincing her children she had already eaten at work. That night, she hadn't eaten for 2 days. The hunger had grown unbearable. So when she saw untouched food left on the table after the Cole family's dinner party, she waited until everyone was asleep, then slipped into the kitchen, hoping to eat just enough to silence the pain in her stomach. Ethan Cole, the man who found her, was not known for kindness. A powerful entrepreneur in his early 40s, he had built an empire from the ground up, and lost his heart somewhere along the way. His wife, Clarissa, had left years ago, accusing him of caring more about profits than people. Since then, Ethan had surrounded himself with luxury, but inside, he lived in emptiness. He treated employees like gears in a machine, useful but replaceable. So when he saw Anna in that position, his maid, hiding like a thief in his kitchen, his first instinct was anger. He demanded an explanation in a cold, clipped voice that made Anna's eyes fill with tears. She fell to her knees, apologizing, unable to look at him, stammering that she was just hungry, that she hadn't meant to steal. For a moment, he wanted to fire her. But something about her voice, the way it broke when she said the word, hungry, made him stop. It was a word he hadn't heard in his world of abundance. He walked away without another word that night, but he couldn't sleep. The image of Anna's shaking hands haunted him. He remembered his own childhood, the days when he and his mother had survived on 1 meal a day after his father abandoned them. He had promised himself then that he'd become rich enough never to feel hunger again. But in chasing that dream, he'd forgotten what hunger really meant, not just for food, but for dignity. The next morning, Ethan came downstairs earlier than usual. He found Anna scrubbing the floor, her eyes red from crying, her movements slower than normal. He quietly placed a plate of breakfast on the table and told her to sit. She froze, unsure if it was a trap, but he simply nodded. Her hands trembled as she obeyed. She ate quickly, tears falling onto her plate, whispering thank you between bites. Ethan didn't respond, but something inside him shifted. Days passed, and Ethan began observing her more closely. He noticed how she never sat down, how she always refused leftovers offered by the cook, how she wrapped uneaten bread in napkins and slipped it into her bag, not for herself, but for her children. He started asking questions discreetly and learned about her struggles, the sick mother, the 2 children waiting at home, the debts piling up. The more he learned, the heavier his guilt became. He had wasted more food in a day than she earned in a week. One rainy afternoon, Anna didn't show up for work. Hours passed, and she didn't call. Ethan, inexplicably worried, sent one of his drivers to check her home address. When the driver returned, he looked shaken. Anna's mother had passed away the night before. The family couldn't afford a coffin, and Anna was sitting outside their small rented room, holding her mother's hand, crying silently. Ethan's chest tightened. That night, he went himself. He stood outside the small house, rain pouring, his expensive shoes sinking into the mud. He watched her kneeling by a candle, her children asleep beside her. He didn't say anything, he just stepped forward and placed an envelope beside her. Inside it was enough money for a proper funeral and a small note that said, "No mother deserves to be buried without dignity." The next morning, Anna came to the mansion again, her eyes swollen but determined to work. Ethan met her at the door, and for the first time, he spoke gently. He told her to take a week off, but she refused. "If I stop working, my children won't eat," she said quietly. Her strength shattered him. That day, he decided something would change, not just for her, but for every person working under him. He called his management team and ordered a new company policy: fair wages, paid leaves, and free meals for all domestic and low-wage workers under his businesses. His board protested, said it would cost millions. But Ethan didn't care. "If kindness is expensive," he said, "then we've been living far too cheaply." Months passed, and Anna's life slowly began to change. She could finally afford to buy enough food for her children, send them to school, and pay off her debts. Ethan, too, found something he hadn't felt in years: peace. He began visiting local shelters, funding schools, and setting up meal programs for the poor. Every act of kindness brought him closer to the man he had forgotten to be. One evening, Anna came to him with tears in her eyes. She handed him a small, hand-drawn thank you card from her children. On it was a picture of a man giving food to a woman, and a simple message written in childish handwriting: "Thank you for helping our mom." Ethan couldn't hold back his tears. In that moment, he realized that wealth wasn't measured by how much you have, but by how much good you do with it. Years later, Ethan would often tell people that one of the most important moments of his life wasn't when he made his first million, but when he found his maid hiding to eat leftovers. Because that night didn't just change her life, it saved his soul. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Leave a comment below telling us what kindness means to you. Your words might just inspire someone else to change a life today. Speech balloon special request: tell us in the comments, what's the kindest thing someone has ever done for you, or that you've done for someone else? Your story could become our next video.